Na 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 Dapat Tagum Radyo Eskwela na 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 Dapat Tagum Radyo Eskwela na.
Hello there, viewers and listeners. Welcome to our Teleradyo Eskwela Tara Na, the School and Air program of DepEd Tagum City. I am radio host, Ms. Mariluz Agatinto from Tagum City National High School. And we would like to thank our radio partner, Hope Radio 107.1 TXHS, where we are airing episodes for junior high school. Thank you for your generosity. Today, you will be learning about the hierarchy of life, a lesson in Grade 7 Science, Quarter 2, Module 3. Come and join us as we continue our hashtag Scientific Adventures. So, get your modules, your notebook, and your writing pen, and be comfortably seated in your respective homes. Now, to discuss the topic, let me give you our teacher broadcaster, Sir Kennely G. Alimbuan.
Thank you, Ma'am Luz. Hello, viewers and listeners. We are very glad because despite the pandemic, we can continue learning through our Teleradyo Eskwela. Now, let us hear our learning objectives for this topic, the hierarchy of life. Towards the end of discussion, the grade 7 students are expected to, first, identify the characteristics of life. Second, describe the levels of biological organization. And third, explain how the parts that make up the levels of organizations affect the entire organism. But before we continue, I have a question for you. Do you believe that life could start with a single thing, which you cannot even see with your unaided eyes? Thus, every living thing, including you, is composed from that single thing? Well, what if I tell you that all living things are composed of billions of living cells? Would you agree with me? Yeah, I know. It sounds impossible, right? To think that we came from a single cell? Well, let's go and find out how. Cell is the building blocks of life. If living things are made up of living cells, how do you think they manage to create a large organism like yourself? That is where the hierarchy of life enters. It talks about the levels of organization of every living organism from the simplest form to the most complex. Let's talk about the levels of organization from the simplest form to the most complex. But before that, I want you to rank the following terms from the simplest form to the most complex, according to your own understanding. These are the following components of the levels of organization in no particular order. We have tissue, organ system, organism, community, biome, ecosystem, biosphere, cell, organ, and population. Now, let us check your answer and let us provide some additional examples. If your answer is cell in your first, that is correct. The basic unit of life. All living things are made up of cell. And the most common cells are plant cells and animal cells. Are you following me? Great! Now, for the next one, if your answer is tissue, great, that's correct. Tissue forms when cells of same function groups together. And the four types of tissue are connective, epithelial, muscle, and nervous tissue. Next, we have, if your answer is organ, that is correct. Organ is a group of tissues and similar structures that all function as one. In plants, we have roots, stems, and leaves. In animals, we have brain, heart, stomach, and many more. That's great. Now let's proceed to the next one. If your answer is organ system, congratulations, that is correct. It is an association of different organs that performs a related biological process. In plants, we have shoot system. In animals, we have association of esophagus, mouth, stomach, small and large intestines for digestive system. Congratulations! Now let's proceed to the next one. If your answer is organism, that's accurately correct. Organism, any living thing that is composed of various organ systems that function together, is an organism. For example, a human is an organism. Your pet cat is an organism. Your pet dog is an organism. Your plants is an organism. Okay, let's proceed. If your answer to the next one is population, that's correct again. Population. When similar organisms group together in a common environment at a given time, they form a population. However, size of population changes due to birth, death, and availability of resources, and many more. Next one, we have, if your answer is community, that is correct. It is the interactions of different populations with each other. For example, when a pride of lion interacts with a group of giraffe, that's community. Great! Now, let's proceed to the next one. If your answer in the next slide is ecosystem, that is accurately correct again. It is the interaction of living things such as organism, population, and community to their non-living environment. Remember, students, that living things cannot survive without non-living things, like the food, weather, water, and sunlight, and many more. Now, there are two types of the most common ecosystem. We have the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystem. Now, let's proceed to the next one. If your answer is biome, that is correct. It is a type of environment that is defined by the types of organism that lives there. There are 6 major biomes. We have rainforest, taiga, temperate deciduous forest, grasslands, desert, and tundra. Now, in biome, for instance, there are organisms that are too dependent to their environment. For example, in tundra, polar bears. You cannot find polar bears in desert or any other biome except in tundra. Now, let's proceed to the next one. Last but not the least is the biosphere. From the Greek word bios meaning life and sphaira meaning sphere. Biosphere comprises everything where life exists and the environment they reside in. In short, everything in our planet is under the biosphere. Okay, now let's proceed to the next one. After having discussed and provided examples about the hierarchy of life, let me ask you this question. How do you think parts that make up the levels of organizations affect the entire organism? Great job! Because higher levels of organization are built from lower levels. Cells group together to form tissues. Tissues group together to form organs. Organs perform together to form an organ system. And organ system function together to form organism. If one of the levels is disrupted, there is a high chance that other functions of that organism may not respond accordingly. And worse, the organism might develop disorders. Now, for us to further understand the hierarchy of life, let us discuss the characteristics of life. All living things have a certain traits in common for us to be called it a living thing. And these are the characteristics of life. Living things are composed of cells. Living things have different level of organization. Living things use energy. Living things respond to their environment. Living things grow and develop. Living things reproduce and pass their traits to their offsprings. Living things adapt and react to their surroundings or environment. And living things maintain internal balance or homeostasis. Now, let's discuss one by one these characteristics. First one, living things composed of cell. A cell is the basic unit of life. There are many types of cells, and common cells are plant cells and animal cells. Next one is, living organisms have different levels of organization. This includes cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and organisms, as we discussed a while ago. Next one, we have they use energy. Every living thing requires energy for it to perform its daily activities. They undergo metabolism to acquire energy through digestion, photosynthesis, and cellular respiration. Next one, we have respond to their environment. Sunflower following the sun. Why does this occur? Sunflower follows the sun to receive more sunlight. It responds according to its need. Next one, we have living organisms grow and develop. For example, caterpillar undergoes metamorphosis to become a butterfly. Next, we have living organisms reproduce. For example, you yourself is a product of reproduction. The traits of your parents are passed on to you. Next one, we have living organisms adapt and react to their environment. Plants in the deserts, for example, adapt and conserve water usage and storing it to their body. And last but not the least, living organisms maintain internal balance. For example, when the temperature of the environment is too hot, we do sweat. Sweating happens to cool down our body. All living things will exhibit all these characteristics to be considered a living thing. Now great! I believe that you fully understand the characteristics of life. So, let us now answer this activity by identifying what type of characteristics of life each situation describes. First situation. When my brother became a teenager, he started to have facial hairs and deep voice. Very good. The answer is living things grow up and develop. Next one, we have a macahiya plant closes its leaves and drops its stems when touched by other organisms. The answer is great job. Living things respond to their environment. Next one, we have plants in the desert have thick stems and leaves for storing big amount of water. The answer is very good. Living things adapt to their environment. Next one, we have a chick breaks out from its egg. Congratulations, that is correct. Living things reproduce. And last but not the least, a puppy needs food to get nutrition. Your answer is? Congratulations, that is correct. Living things use energy. And now, let's go back and check if we attained our objectives for today. The first objective says, identify the characteristics of life. Very good. And those characteristics of life are, living things are composed of cells, have different levels of organization, use energy, respond to their environment, grow up and develop, reproduce, adapt and react to their surrounding, and maintain internal balance. Very good. How about number 2? Describe the levels of biological organization. Very good. Just to make it short, higher levels of organization are built from lower levels. And last but not the least, explain how the parts that make up the levels of organizations affect the entire organism. Exactly. The levels of organization are interconnected. If one of the levels is disrupted, there is a high chance that other functions will fall also. Good job, dear viewers and listeners. I hope you have learned an interesting lesson from our discussion today. And may this help you and your everyday life. With that, I'm glad that I was able to share significant learning with you. Thank you so much, and this is Sir Kenny Lee G. Alimbon, and goodbye.
That was great! Thank you, Sir Kenny. That was very informative. Thank you, students, viewers, and listeners for tuning in. Hope you learned something today. Stay tuned for more #Scientific Adventure. For you to understand our topic further, you may do the exercises provided in your modules. You may also have an advanced study of your topics to prepare yourself for the next lesson. Please make sure to be with us on the next session here at the School in the Air program of the Department of Education. This has been Teacher Aluz, your radio host. Keep safe, everyone!
Na 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 na, dapat Tagum Radyo Eskwela na. Na 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 na, dapat Tagum Radyo Eskwela na. Halika na at makinig sa mga aral naming hatid. Saang sulok ka man kapatid, aabutin ka ng aming tinig. Walang araw na sasayangin, edukasyon ipagpatuloy natin. Anumang pagsubok at mga balakid, kaalaman ay aming ihahatid.